I went on TikTok and engaged with this GI doctor, and I talked about how there's a lymph node on a patient right here that she had it for a long time, and I gave her a supplement, and it literally faded away within 3 days. And this doctor had said, if there's one thing you don't need to do for your health is flush out your lymphatic system. And I made this comment like, yeah, you do. It's one of the most important things that you can do. But of course, she's relying on PubMed for her information, ignoring all the classical herbalism and apothecaries going back centuries in European culture, and their focus on, and of course, ancient Eastern medicine, talking about getting the lymphatic system flowing. So I made this comment, and then she responded with this video response, and I'm going to play this, and it's going to take us down a path because she says a thing about differential diagnosis, meaning you go to a doctor, they give you a diagnosis, and they treat you. And it's like, why did she say that? And we're going to explore this. It's pretty interesting, and it turns out to be the basis of medicine and why medicine drugs you so much and causes early death.
The first learning objective I want to go through is talking about getting a little bit more details on this lymph node so that we can form a differential diagnosis. A differential diagnosis is something that we use in medicine to help determine all possibilities for an etiology of a complaint. Sometimes people in the world of wellness and chiropractics refer to that as a, quote, root cause, but it's kind of the same idea.
But it's not the same idea because a differential diagnosis can look at all these symptoms without actually getting to the root cause. But when I'm talking about this lymph node in this patient, why did she go down this path of, hey, in medicine, we do this thing. It's kind of a unique thing called the differential diagnosis. The chiropractics and the wellness people, they call it root cause. Like, why is she even teaching me this? I've been at this 28 years. So I'm absolutely aware of a differential diagnosis. I do that in my clinic myself. And the comments on the side are very condescending. And she agrees with these very condescending comments. So she sounds really nice and stuff and pleasant, but in the background, she's kind of not. She's very covert. And her condescending, simplistic talking that she does in this video is a way to talk down to me. And then all of her supporters are cheering her on, and she's agreeing with them. So the point here is that people can be really nice, but in the back of their mind, they're trying to stab you in the back. That's what she's doing. Now on TikTok, another person did the same thing, and they brought up the differential diagnosis. 2 in 1 month. Why are these medical people so in love with the differential diagnosis? What is it? Okay, here's what it is. So you have a series of symptoms, and you go to a specialist usually, or family doctor, whatever, but you end up at a specialist, and then you go through your symptoms. Let's say you got, 25 symptoms, and they say, no, I don't want to hear all of them. I just want to hear the ones related to your GI system. And that's what she is. She's a GI doctor. So she's going to look at your bloating, constipation, bad breath, stuff like that. And she'll diagnose it. She's got her differential diagnosis, a list of disease possibilities. She runs a bunch of tests, looks at your symptoms. It could be IBS, could be IBD, could be ulcerative colitis. She does a scope and she gives you a diagnosis. Then she gives you a drug. Okay, now you go to another doctor. And now you have a skin rash. So you see a dermatologist. And they look at the rash and they may do a swab. And they have a differential diagnosis. So there's this whole series of possibilities, and they bring it down to one thing, one disease name. They give you that disease name, then they give you a drug. Now you have 2 drugs. Okay, now you're tired. So you go to an endocrinologist, and they take your symptoms, but just the ones related to endocrine organs. And they run some lab work, but only for endocrine organs. And then they give you a diagnosis, and then they give you a drug. Now you have 3 specialists, and 3 or 4 drugs, okay, and you're depressed. So you see a psychiatrist, same thing. Differential diagnosis, disease, drug. 5 drugs for 5 different parts of the body from 5 different specialists. That's what you get when you have a differential diagnosis system in medicine. That is not the holistic viewpoint, okay? Now, I've seen doctors on social media say, if you want a holistic viewpoint, go to a family practice doctor because they manage all your symptoms or they, manage all your drugs. That's not a holistic viewpoint either because it's still drug-based. So where am I going with this? Polypharmacy. Polypharmacy means 5 or more medications. And then extreme polypharmacy is 10 or more medications. I'm going to go through some notes that I got from Open Evidence AI. This is an AI service only available to clinicians, and there's no AI hallucinations or AI slop because they only pull from medical journals. So I just type in polypharmacy, what is it, how do you describe it, and is it a problem or not? And the AI said that's very prevalent. It says dramatic increases from 2000 to 2012. The number of people that were suffering from polypharmacy went from 24% to 39%, with some estimates reaching 65% in adults age 65 and older. So that's severe. 65% of Americans over the age of 65 are on too many medications. Now, if you're institutionalized, meaning you're in the government hands, that would be 57% of patients. And then when you're in the hospital, we're talking 62% of patients. The highest burden of polypharmacy is age 75 to 84 years old, with more than 50% of them taking 5 to 9 drugs every single day. And it's not just the United States, it's in Europe and it's in Australia, 42% in South Korea, 49% in India. Now, it increases death. Mortality risk relationships follow a dose response pattern. Polypharmacy, greater than or equal to 5 medications, increases all-cause mortality risk by 28%, while excessive polypharmacy, 10 or more, increases risk of all-cause mortality by 44%. The more medications you're on, the sooner you die. And I don't care what the medications are. See, you go to the cardiologist, they put you on a statin drug and a blood pressure drug. Okay, fine, that's 2. Then you're on an antidepressant, and then you need an antibiotic, and now you need something for your arthritis. You're on a painkiller, something for sleep. Now you're on 5 or 6 medications. It doesn't matter that one medication has been well studied and it's like gold standard studies. It doesn't matter that medication alone tested as the best drug for that symptom or disease. It doesn't matter that it was paid for by insurance for free or very low cost on your part. It doesn't matter that the specialist is the best in the state or the best in the country. It's still drugs. And the more drugs you're on, the sooner you die. And the longer you're on the drugs, the sooner you die. Individual studies report hazard ratios ranging from 1.6 at 5 years to 2.37. So what is a hazard ratio? A hazard ratio is a number above or below 1.0. So if your hazard ratio number is below 1, that means it's beneficial to you. And if your hazard ratio is above 1, that means it's detrimental. Now, if it's 1.1 or 1.3, maybe not such a big deal. But if it's 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, then yeah, that's a big deal. So these hazard ratios can be 2.37 at 1 year of being on polypharmacy, with some other analyses showing 3.0 or 4.0 increases in hazard ratios. Polypharmacy increases hospitalization risk by 18 to 50% and emergency department visits by 32%, while excessive polypharmacy, meaning 10 or more medications, increases these risks by 85% and 92%. Now, the solution to polypharmacy is to never need to be on drugs. So if you have some poor health and you're on some drugs, there are some really good things you can do that are quite profound. And I've gotten people off blood pressure medications, and I got them off antidepressants, and the need for recurring antibiotics goes away. So when you do nutrition properly, with including herbal supplements and other dietary supplements and detoxing and getting parasites out, then you can have a really major effect and then not need drugs. If you need drugs, then take the drugs. That's if you need them. But our medical system ignores all the supplements and the correct nutrition, and they use drugs. As a matter of fact, there's an overweight obesity doctor who has been promoting the Mediterranean diet his whole career. And I sent messages to him 3 years ago, saying the Mediterranean diet isn't good enough. And he just made a video saying that you may have realized that I've lost weight over the last year. I'm taking a drug, a GLP-1 drug. So I made a comment, yeah, because your diet doesn't work. The Mediterranean diet is not good enough for weight loss, even though it's the most researched diet in the country, it doesn't matter. It's just not a good diet. It's too low in protein, too high in carbohydrates. So even the obesity doctor doesn't know what nutrition and diet he can recommend to his patients. As a matter of fact, I just made a quick video about him. He recommends Flintstone vitamins. I've never heard any medical or health professional ever recommend Flintstone vitamins except for that one guy. I'm saying like MDs in general do not study nutrition. Now, maybe they took some courses in college or maybe even in medical school. But here it is 10, 20 years later, they're not practicing nutrition, they're not studying nutrition because they're overwhelmed with their license requirements to drug people. So she says this in this video.
Doctors do learn and study nutrition from day one of medical school throughout the 4 years and throughout a minimum of 3 years of postgraduate training in residency and possibly even fellowship. Nutrition is essentially incorporated throughout that at all times. And what I think when people have this perception that doctors don't study nutrition is that it is true. Our application of nutrition is limited because we really rely on the experts of that, and that would be dietitians.
Now, dietitians are required by law to promote what the government tells them to promote, by their license, I should say. And that's been the food pyramid since 1980 or earlier. Low meat, high carbohydrate, white bread is fine, white pasta is fine, sugar up to 10% of your daily calories is fine. That's why we're so overweight now, because everything has been wrong about what the dietitians have been teaching.
We do our best in the limited time that we have in the office to talk about the nutritional implications and how that may improve outcomes for certain diseases or symptoms, etc. But it is true, we could do a better job if we had more time.
So there's not enough time because they're looking at the drugs, they're using drugs. So yeah, she admits it. It's not good enough. If they were actually applying nutrition the way I do, their practice would look like mine.
Unfortunately, that is a downside, and we really rely on our dietitians, who are the true experts in application of nutrition, to help us with that. So we definitely study nutrition, the ins and outs from biochemistry all the way up to practical application throughout our postgraduate training. But could we have more time to do it? Absolutely. But we know nutrition.
So there's a pediatrician doctor on TikTok. He has a shirt that says, "Stop Googling, drink water." Drinking water is his only solution. And I've had medical doctors tell my patients, "Oh, you need more water." And it's like, no, there are so many other things that this person needs to actually reverse their complex chronic illness. I had a doctor once tell my high school track star runner he would run a distance and then almost pass out. The doctor told him, "Eat more bread." Like, that's not what that kid needed. More bread, more water. That's the jail diet. I called it the prison diet. Come on, give me a break. And if you really understood nutrition, you would understand metabolism, how the mitochondria work, and how ketosis is more important than glycolysis. So therefore, you would promote meat over carbohydrates, and you would understand the nutrients that facilitate lactic acidosis that needs to be stopped. And you would understand without a doubt that you need a detox, because you can have a ton of nutrients in your body. Toxins prevent the proper utilization of nutrients, including vitamins and minerals, etc. So a true nutritionist knows step 1, detox. Step 2, nourish. And she and I had a little bit of a debate about parasites, and I told her that I've had people eliminate parasites since 2007. She didn't believe me because the studies show that parasites don't exist in the United States unless you travel to India or Mexico. My response to her was, the parasite testing does not find parasites. Stool analysis for parasites don't find parasites. So all these studies on PubMed where they analyze stool for parasites and they say, oh, there's no parasites because the labs suck. It's just another aspect of nutrition to know is cleansing, including the gut, including parasites, ropeworms, heavy metals, chemicals, etc. As I described the differential diagnosis before, you go to one specialist and another, then another, you get a new diagnosis, a new one, a new one, a new one, a new drug, a new drug, a new drug, and you end up with many drugs. That is our current system without this idea of like, okay, how do you actually repair the body? How do you actually first detoxify the body? There's a step-by-step process. Now, in this step-by-step process, you can do a differential diagnosis and you can find Lyme disease in step 7. You can find chemical toxicity in step 6. You can find parasites in step 4. You can find other organisms like mold, parasites, virus elsewhere in the body in step 5. You can find kidney dysfunction, liver dysfunction, lymphatic system dysfunction in step 3. You can find and diagnose a bad diet in step 1. You can find mitochondrial dysfunction in step 2. There's a lot of diagnoses that can occur in these 7 steps right here. And people that have complex chronic illness, they have most of these things. So you can go to a Lyme specialist in step 7. They do a differential diagnosis and say, oh yeah, you have babesia. Okay, fine, but you didn't do step 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1. You can go to your dietitian in step 1, and they say you have to change your diet, but then you still feel just as bad. A lot of people experience that. They go from vegan to carnivore and everywhere in between, and they still feel bad because they have toxins and organisms that need to come out in steps 3 through 7. And before you do that, you got to do B1, vitamin B1 in step 2 to enhance your mitochondrial function. So what I'm saying is that the differential diagnosis is a good system for people who are healthy and they have one problem. I've been to dermatologists. They did this differential diagnosis system, and then they froze something off my skin. Like, I'm happy about that. And if you have a cancer tumor, you want to know exactly what kind of cancer that is. Or if you have a heart problem, and you want to know, is it like an aneurysm style problem in the aorta maybe? Is it a valve problem? Is it a nervous system problem? So you get a differential diagnosis of the heart. Like, that stuff is really valuable. But why did that happen in the first place? There are people that don't eat enough meat in step 1, the diet, and that makes their tissues weak, and that's how they get an aneurysm. There are people that never detox in step 6, and now they have cadmium, lead, and tin in their heart, and now they have their heart muscle is failing. So just because you have a diagnosis doesn't mean you ignore these other things here that caused it in the first place. A lot of diagnoses end up with the same treatment, unfortunately, too. So an autoimmune disease diagnosis can end up with steroids and anti-inflammatories or antihistamines. That's where a broader, more holistic viewpoint would come into play, because a lot of autoimmune diseases could be reversed with getting parasites out, or going on the carnivore diet, or detoxing for a year all the metals and chemicals, instead of just taking a drug to relieve the symptoms for the next 24 hours. So I just want you to look bigger and broader, more holistically, with a bigger scope on your health, because you'll go to the best doctors, and they're going to specialize in their system or their organ, and they're going to give you a diagnosis and then a treatment. And then what about all the other organs? What about all the other systems? Everything's connected to everything. And the big broad categories in the 7 steps blueprint to optimal health, that's the blueprint, that's the roadmap. So when somebody comes to me and they say, oh, I have psoriasis, they name a skin condition, they name a fatigue problem, they name an arthritis, and they give me a diagnosis name, I'm like, okay, fine, what's causing it? How's your diet? How's your gut health? Are you toxic? And all these can be verified with blood tests and other types of testing. And a lot of these testings are not done in medical clinics or in hospitals. Some of these tests are too new, and hospitals are old school. They don't keep up with the latest and greatest technology. And I did learn that a new test would have to go through about 800 different studies before they're incorporated into a hospital system. So some of these tests only have a few dozen or a few hundred studies, not 800. So if you go to a holistic practitioner, they might have newer tests that teach more data that a hospital would never be able to have access to. All right, I hope you enjoyed this information about the differential diagnosis and its role in medicine, and how it can trick you into getting sicker and dying earlier, as opposed to looking at your health holistically. If you need our help with your health, you can contact us at our office. Here's the information right here.